Arkansas continued its dominance on the diamond this weekend, and we've got to talk about what in the heck is going on with Arkansas's basketball program, both men's and women's. And we've got a quick football update for you, and we'll dive into all that and more in tonight's episode. Welcome into episode 70 of the Woo Pig Weekly Podcast, your go-to podcast for an in-depth dive into all things Arkansas Razorbacks. Join us as we dissect our victories, analyze the plays, and revel in the spirit of the Hogs. As always, episode 70 is brought to you by Homefield. Step into the legacy of collegiate style with Homefield's premium vintage apparel. Embrace the spirit of your alma mater or favorite team with our meticulously crafted, comfortable, and stylish collection. Elevate your game day attire and celebrate the rich history of college sports. Homefield, where tradition meets modern comfort at every stitch. So go check them out. You can use our promo code Variety Sports and off caps to receive 15% off that first order. They've got some fantastic Razorback gear. So go check them out today. And we're coming to you live here. The baseball game is in the bottom of the ninth. Arkansas has the 1-0 lead. Gabe Gakel has come in relief of McIntyre. We've got 2 outs. And he's up 0-2 in this pitch count for this last batter. So Arkansas is close to sealing the deal in the first game on the road here in Auburn. So we'll keep you updated as that goes. That should finish up here in just a minute. Other than that, we'll hit a quick football announcement where it was released either late last week or the end of the week before. Quincy McAdoo, the stud that, wide receiver that came out of Arkansas, came in as a wide receiver, switched over to DB 2 seasons ago, got injured in the offseason before last season started, has officially announced he is medically retiring from football. We hate to see that. He was such a great player, came on late in the season that year to be a big piece of that Arkansas defense. And due to unfortunate accident during offseason, during a wreck, made it not possible for him to return to the game of football. And update, Arkansas just clinched the first game of this series with a 1-0 win over Auburn. And we'll dive more into that stats on next Monday as we have our recap show. But as I was saying, you hate to see a kid's career cut short like that due to, an uncontrollable, such as an injury, something like that. So, we wish him the best, and hopefully he finds out, something that he can do to fulfill that, whether it maybe gets into coaching or something of that nature. Any thoughts there, Seth?
No, a good memory. I always remember that hard hit he had in the bowl game against Kansas, where made the kid throw up. If I remember correctly, after the play, I mean, the guy gets up, got hit so hard in his midsection, he just came up puking. It was pretty wild. But Quincy was such a good ball player, so fun to watch, and it seemed like he was such a fun, outgoing person off the football field. So it's just a kind of a devastating loss that he's not going to be able to play football anymore. And I can't imagine how hard that would be on you mentally to realize, one of your biggest favorite hobbies, things that you do, something that your whole life kind of revolves around, honestly, is taken away from you due to an unfortunate accident. So prayers up to him, his folks, and just, like you said, hope he can kind of find something to fill that void, whatever that is. Wish him the best of luck in it.
Yeah, very true. We got another update for you that's not necessarily Arkansas related, but the Kentucky Wildcats get upset for the second time in 3 years as they lose to Oakland in the first round of the NCAA tournament. So, hats off to Oakland to get that big win. But, I think that's going to bust a lot of people's brackets. But as we continue on, that leads us to Arkansas's basketball programs for both men's and women's, where things aren't really making sense right now with what's going on. We'll start with the men's basketball team. Right now, we're up to 5 players in the portal right now. Joseph Pinion was the first guy to come out and announce the day the portal opened. You had Keon Minifield that same late that afternoon announced. Denna J. Harris announced. However, a note with him, he is needing a waiver to be able to transfer and play again. Devo Davis announced yesterday. And then out of nowhere, a surprise to me, Layden Blocker announced he was entering the portal today. As of right now, they haven't made any announcements, so you can kind of say Khalif Battle, Tremont Mark, Brazil, and Bayfall are your returners as of now until they make an announcement. And then incoming, you don't have any transfer commits just yet. Arkansas has contacted my last update as 29 players, ranging from guards, wings, big man forwards, whatever. And then you got two incoming freshmen, Isaiah Elohim and Jalen Shelley, both 4-star kids that are coming in. Elohim plays more of a guard 2 spot, where you have Shelley that comes in at 6'8", playing that kind of hybrid 4, maybe 3, 4, 5 spot, depending on how Musselman wants to use him. But that begs the question with all these transfers, especially with Layden Blocker, one of the surprises, Muss staying or going? That's really been the question that's floating around, the state of Arkansas right now. There's rumor that he's going to Louisville. There's rumors that now, as of today, just earlier, maybe a few hours ago, that the SMU job is open and that he's potentially going to talk to them. We don't really know. There's, different people out there saying different things. We don't have confirmed sources, but one, I saw something saying he has an extension sitting on his desk that he hasn't signed yet. So is he still wanting to negotiate? Is he hearing out options? It really makes you wonder, even though they are contacting guys out there recruiting, that might be a reason we haven't seen any commitments yet, is because these guys don't know if he's going to be at Arkansas next season. I would hope he is. Like it was said earlier this week, if you really think about what I've heard he's asking for is a raise and or extension in some capacity, and then maybe a little bit of a bump in NIL money for the basketball program so that they can continue to compete at the high level, as that's the name of the game these days. If you want to get the guys, you've got to have the NIL funds. And so he has said not to have an agent right now. So he's doing his negotiating and whatnot by himself, unless, he has somebody helping him that's not an agent. But that begs the question of, we're give or take about a week or so, week and a half into portal season. So usually he's seen or contacted 29 guys, him or in the staff in some capacity. But it really makes you think, does he really want to come back to Arkansas? If he comes back, that would mark the longest tenure he's had in any stop he's made in college basketball. Or you got to look at it as maybe him not getting what he is needing from the university, whether that be that extension, that kind of
it's like a show of faith almost.
Security, yeah. Because next year is his contract's up. His buyout this season isn't a lot. From what I've seen, it's about $750,000. So not a ton. Very doable. If a school wants him, they'll come out and pay that easily. I mean, what's your thoughts on what's going on right now, Seth?
Well, first off, I'll kind of kick it back up a notch, talking about some of the guys that are leaving. A couple surprises, a couple I'm not necessarily surprised on, but disappointed, I guess. But I think after the way this year went, I'm not sure if, maybe there's some similarities to what happened in the football program, where there's rumors of, some locker room issues, that now that some of those locker room issues are not there anymore, it seems like kids are having a lot more fun, getting back into it. The culture's growing back to what it needed to be, kind of what it used to be. I almost feel like the football program and the basketball program are mirror images of each other right now, with the football program being about 6 months ahead of where the basketball program could be in the next 6 months, give or take, if you can correct some of the maybe some culture issues that we had, effort issues, things of that nature. So I hate to see Pinion leave. I know he was a fan favorite. He didn't get enough playing time, and I completely understand him, bouncing out. Minifield was a surprise to me. I think there may have been some there might be more to the story there with him having some struggles with academics, is my understanding. I'm not sure, but what they maybe told him that he doesn't have a spot. I don't know. That is me speculating, but that was part of the issue late in the year. And so I can understand, you're not want to take up a roster spot with somebody that can't even play just due to academics. Losing Devo, I've got very, very bittersweet feelings on that, which I don't want to dive into too crazy, but I mean, he's done so much for the program, and it's, it just kind of brings back that same memory of like KJ transferring. KJ had, one more year eligibility and a lot of questions on if he was going to go pro or not. The year didn't go right, didn't feel right. Some of the fans almost turned on him, and, he transfers to UCF, and it almost feels like it's a mirror image going on right now with Devo Davis. Love the kid. He's done so much for Arkansas, and everybody needs to really give him his respect for that. But outside of that, the Layden Blocker news was the most surprising to me, I think. I thought he had a bright future here, so I was a little bit shocked to see him leaving. Back of my head, maybe he's wanting to go play with his little brother, who's got D1 potential, is my understanding. So we'll see. I don't. Maybe that's part of the case there. I don't know. But you can sit here and speculate till you're blue in the face on all these moves. Nobody ever really knows the full story, and it's quick and easy to kind of always assume the most negative reason for somebody leaving, and I hate to do that. So I wish these guys nothing but the best with whatever endeavors they have going forward, whether it's pro ball for Devo, for example, or not, or, whatever the case may be. And I am curious to see kind of how the returners currently, if any of them, still decide to stay, or if there's even more moves that are about to happen. And I think a lot of it hinges on what you just talked about. Is Muss going to come back? I would love it if he does. I'm really not ready for him to leave yet at all. Not near kind of how I felt about Mike Anderson, for example, who I was kind of pretty well ready for a change by the time he was out the door. I'm not really ready for the Muss bust to be done yet. I really do think that this season was just kind of potentially a fluke. I really do think that Muss has a formula that works. It just didn't quite work this year, but it's been proven to work the last few years. And I'm not quite ready to give up on that experiment, if you will, of, kind of trying to bring a team of transfers and a few freshmen and things like that, and maybe a couple of returners together and get a good team out of it. I think that, in my mind, is actually the way college basketball is going to be. And I thought Musselman was ahead of the curve. So I really think he needs to come back. I think a lot of fans need to get on board and really try to fight hard to keep him if possible, whether that's, edge donations, whatever the case may be, to try to provide maybe a little bit more NIL funding if that's something he is asking for. Not everybody can do that. I don't even do that, but maybe I should. I don't know. But definitely the way this year went, it does feel like something's got to get adjusted. I don't know if like major changes necessarily, but it seems like there's some adjustments needed, whether it's some of the, the coaching assistants, or maybe the adjustments are already happening with these transfer players leaving, and you're going to get your good, healthy culture back and get back to, what got you to those back-to-back Sweet 16s, Elite Eights. We've got to kind of find our identity again, if you will, very similar to how I'm hoping the football team does at the same time.
Yeah. And when you look at it, you've got to think that the boosters, Hunter Yurchek, those people that are involved in that decision to either give Muss a raise or extend him, it's almost a fine line. They've got to, look at the situation, and do you chalk this year up to a bad year and look at the previous success of the past 3 years, 2 Sweet 16s, Elite Eight appearance. And then you look at it as in this year, what I think might have been the plan was you wanted to build your offense around Trevor Brazile, Devo Davis, your guys returning with experience. And those guys just didn't live up to expectations on what the goal was. I don't know that for sure. It could, and that could have been not the idea at all. But at least I think Brazile had to be a big part of that conversation with him returning, with the hype that of the small sample set we saw last year, and then the expectations this year for him to pick up where he left off. That wasn't the case. He struggled all season, had some up and down games, had that little spurt where he had a injury for a few games, and it's just really confusing. And I think, like Seth was saying, the most surprising with Layden Blocker, I wonder if that is kind of signaling, like, yes, does he want to go play somewhere else, like maybe with his brother, or was he just not fitting what Muss was needing? Or is that, in a sense, maybe some writing on the wall? I hate to speculate, but it makes you wonder, a guy like him that you figured would be a key piece of this team next year, a young talent that, had some growing pains this year, but had some decent games as well, is just all of a sudden out. Is there some uncertainty or something that isn't released yet out there? It's hard to speculate, but there, the saying, where there's smoke, there's fire somewhere. So, if sources or what people are saying about Muss has that extension on his desk and hasn't signed it yet, there's rumors with the SMU job open now that they might be looking to go after him as they fire their coach today. There's an infinite number of things that you can assume, and we'll keep you updated with what we know. But as of right now, you're left with just a handful of guys. I believe there's you're going to have 7 to 8, and probably by the time it's all said and done, 9 roster spots you have to fill. And so you're going to have to go out there and get some guys that are going to hopefully gel together. If you can keep maybe Battle and Mark, I personally would be fine if Brazil did not come back. I just wasn't sold on what I saw this year compared to the previous season of a handful of games. But if you can get Battle and Mark back, you have 2 pieces that have played together, have that familiarity, can probably be the leaders on the team that you can actually build your team around, especially if Battle can pull, if he comes back, which he said he's testing both NBA waters and potentially come back, but he's leaning towards coming back from what I understand. Then with those guys back, if Battle can kind of get back to that flow he found towards the end of the season and be able to produce like that next year, and he can focus on some offense, play decent defense, but you can surround him with some pieces that maybe can, be able to handle his deficiencies, then let him come back and be an offensive piece. Do you do that? So there's a lot of things to think about there, and it really makes you wonder. And then when you flip to the women's side of things, you're kind of seeing a similar situation there on a smaller scale, just because that roster is not as huge. But you've had 2 key pieces enter the portal for our women's team with Saylor Poffenbarger and Talia Scott, your all-star freshman. 2 pieces that were big this year. From a brief, clip of Coach Neighbors talking about that, from what I understand, it was with Talia Scott. I don't know if it was necessarily a program thing, but something I think going on, maybe family, that it said it was best for her and her family to leave. I don't know. We can't speculate. And then for Saylor, he didn't really elaborate on that, but he said that's something that kind of came to be a possibility towards the end of the season. So I don't know if it's frustration in playing time, because she was starting every game, and she was getting double-digit rebounds and having decent games all throughout the season. But is it maybe that struggle to not consistently make the tournament? That's what Mike Neighbors' problem has been, is he came over from Washington, and we haven't really seen the performance of what we expected when we brought him in. You don't have a full team of scholarship players. You don't have just tonight, we're not going to cover it a ton because this team was shorthanded, but the team went on the road to Tulsa in the women's NIT tournament and got beat by nearly 20. So, that's, I feel like, almost to be expected with you being down 2 key pieces. You had Michaela Daniels in her last game as a Razorback. It's tough to see that, but that really calls into question, for me, I'm not wanting anybody necessarily fired yet, but I kind of want answers on what is going on with our women's program as well.
Yeah, I completely agree. We talked about it even before the news broke about Talia Scott transferring, and then Saylor Poffenbarger's news came out shortly after that. And that's your 2 best players realistically. And so I scratch my head and wonder, how can a coach keep a job when you can't keep your best players on your roster? the men's team is kind of a different animal with the guys that have entered the portal right now. I'm not even really sure you can say you even had like a best player or anything. I mean, yeah, Tremont Mark and Battle were some of your better scorers for sure. But it just, I don't know, the basketball team was a little funky throughout the year. But the whole Talia Scott situation with her being injured a little bit off and on throughout the year and then not playing the last few weeks due to injury, potentially trying to, maybe there was some other things going on there. I don't know. It just seems to me like maybe the ship is sinking in a sense for Neighbors that okay, he did hit a home run on the Talia Scott recruit, but then couldn't fill any of the other roster spots besides that one. And now you lost her. And now you lost your leading rebounder, but one of your better players. It just, I'm not sure where you go from there. And so if you're not able to keep some of that type of talent around, I'm just not really sure how you can bring in talent that's at that level and try to keep competing in the SEC. To me, it almost feels like we need just a hard reset almost, which, the portal giveth and the portal taketh away. You might can go out and get you some big pieces, but I don't have a good gut feeling that would happen, especially with kind of what I've understood is like the NIL funding that the girls team has access to, I guess would be the right terminology.
But they're allotted essentially.
Yeah, I guess I am not fully versed on how that all works in relations to how much each, program, team, whatever gets out of like that edge fund package. And then obviously there's some private type NIL, things for, certain specific players or position groups. Like the offensive line comes to mind from the football team with Wrights brothers, their NIL deal they have there. That's cool. But I don't know. I just have a bad feeling in my tummy on where we could go from here with some of your best players leaving and not a great track record on filling up your roster anyways.
That's true. It really makes you think. And like you said, a hard reset may be what's needed because you look at programs, and to be fair, they're way ahead of where we are. But if you're wanting your program to get, say, for basketball, especially women's, to the level of LSU, South Carolina, you're going to have to be able to get that talent in and develop it and keep it here, not lose the talent. We saw before the season even started the announcement of the portal wasn't necessarily open yet, but Jersey Wolfenberger, a player that was expected to be a key piece of this roster this year, just leave the team. And then saying she's going to enter the portal when it opens. And sure enough, when it opened earlier in the week, she did. But it makes you think, like, is there something going on with this program with Mike Neighbors? How they're funded? I mean, I don't know. And so, they just finished their game tonight from Tulsa, a quick drive from Northwest Arkansas. So they'll get back. Who knows what news may come out in the coming days? I don't know. We can only wait to see what's going to happen. There's going to be smoke, especially after this game, the way the seasons went. You lost 2-star players. You're struggling to even, you get close to a tournament bid. Like they were on the verge of a tournament bid. Then they had that late, skid down the stretch toward the end of the season where they lost several in a row that probably knocked them off the bubble. You're clearly on the bubble, potentially making the tournament. Then you lose 3-4 games, and it
was rough.
It was rough. And so that really says, well, are we trending in the right direction for where this program needs to be? Honestly, especially if you're wanting to have a successful program all the way around, there's got to be, I feel like answers have to be had. And I don't think we're seeing those right now. So I think this offseason is going to be big to see what happens, especially for both teams. You look at this, I think it's big to, like I said before, you want to know if Muss is coming back because you want to start getting players signed, before they sign somewhere else. But also that makes you want that stability. And, I'm right along the lines with you, Seth, of saying I want Musselman back for at least one more season. I'm not ready to throw in the towel yet when you have 3 fantastic seasons, 1 bad season. And I don't think it's smart to risk losing him over, in the grand scheme of things for the university, it's not that much, but maybe $2 to $3 million. I'm not ready to let him walk away somewhere else, or because we're not going to fire him, but the chances is he wouldn't sign his extension and he would either leave or play off that last contract year. Because we all know what he said after that loss. He's never had a losing season in college basketball before, and he finished under 500 this year. He said he's ready to get back to work and is more motivated than ever. I want that to be at Arkansas and see what he can do with that extra added motivation. But I think that all starts with you've got to get him locked in, at least maybe extend him another year, where last year's not the end of his contract, and make it almost a prove it year. Come back and show that this year was maybe just a fluke, a weird situation that was just a bad season, and then he has a normal season where we can make a run. Something to that extent is I think what I would like to see happen.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, you got to bounce back or die trying. I mean, I think that's kind of the expectation, and I think that might be why he is trying to, get what he needs, wants, whatever you want to call it, on an extension. Just to kind of have that confidence that, look, I mean, next year, if I do good, great, but if I don't, I've got to make sure that I'm setting myself up for success as far as, I've got maybe a little bit better buyout if I do have to get let go or something. I mean, I completely understand him kind of trying to have some assurances and some security and things of that nature before, he's kind of at the end of his contract, maybe on a sour note. You want to be at the end of your contract on a good note, to where you have a little bit of leverage. And maybe not great for the university, but great for the coach, and completely understand him trying to do that. So I'm excited to see, kind of where everything falls out. It's kind of a limbo type of time. We same way last year when we had some transfer. It was during the transfer weeks, and there was news of all the players and things coming and going, and there's some surprising moves and whatnot. It's that plus a little this year, with the coaching. I'm not gonna rumors, whatever you want to call it. On top of the transfers, so a lot of things going to be coming our way with I'm sure news and transfer signings and things of that nature. But I do think you are correct. I think you're not going to see any floodgates open on people wanting to come here and necessarily or sign here until there is a little bit more of a stable situation, at least presented to the public, on what's going on from a coaching standpoint. So
I mean, it's simple. These guys are going to know who their coach is going to be. They don't want to commit here and then Musselman leave, and they're
it's almost like bait and switch.
Not locked in, but I have to be like, well, crap, I committed to here. Well, now I got to turn around and be re-recruited somewhere else. They want to find where they're going to want to go, and that be it. That way they can, get to campus, whatever, get enrolled, start, because as we know, basketball does some summer stuff that they want to and start building chemistry with your teammates. And so I think that's the big holdup. And, theoretically, I think you want to see something done hopefully within the next week. I think would be ideal timing. The sooner the better. But I think if you're pushing it out that further, I think the likelihood of Musselman leaving for another job grows each coming day that he's not signing something, or there's some statement or something saying he's coming back for another season.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And so we'll, move on from the basketball talk unless you guys have any questions. Gymnastics on Friday night. Baseball had their series against Missouri, which we recapped. But gymnastics was also going on in their last regular season meet in Bud Walton, where they had Nebraska coming to town, and Arkansas set yet another program record this season with a 198-1. That's big. That's big. And they beat Nebraska 198-1 to 197-375. Arkansas had scores of a 49.550 on vault, 49.525 on bars, 49.3 on beam, and 49.725 on floor. It's hard to ask for better performances than that. And, with them performing this way last match of the meet of the regular season, you kind of hope that momentum will carry us into the SEC tournament, which is going on this coming weekend. And we'll highlight who we're going to, be competing with in a minute, kind of in a grouping sense. But I think that's big for this Arkansas program to set. I think this is its third different program record this season alone. And then also to continue to improve as the season went on.
Yeah, you really saw it all year. They started out strong, and it seems like they only got stronger. I really only remember that one meet where we had an unfortunate fall on the beam where they scored a not great. I think it was a 196 and some change or something like that. Outside of that, we've had very, very strong performances like week in and week out. And it seems like the consistency has gotten better and better and better as the season's gone on. And that's all you can ask for realistically. But yeah, a 198 plus, that's like upper echelon of women's gymnastics scores.
What you see number one Oklahoma doing.
Yeah, literally number one team in the land, Oklahoma, beat us the week prior to this, 180 or 198.35. So that's not far off from like number one team in the country type scoring. No, I mean, we're not quite there, but like you're there where you're competing week in and week out at that level. So that is really exciting to see, very encouraging that we're headed in the right direction. We're getting coached well. You can see that. It's a good time to be a Razorback gymnastics fan with all of the fan events and things that go on, having some meets in bud where they're able to pack it out comparably to what, tradition has been. So having all kinds of program records set on attendance as well as scoring, it's kind of a hand-in-hand scenario there. So really exciting things happening there. Hoping they can have a deep postseason run and maybe bring home some hardware.
Yeah, that would be nice to see. And like I mentioned, they're headed down to New Orleans for the SEC gymnastics tournament, where after that, hopefully you see them making a run to the NCAA tournament. With how, the NCAA tournament works for gymnastics, they're put into groups essentially that, there's 3 to 4 programs that all compete together in a side of a bracket in a sense, and then they move on periodically. But we hope to see Arkansas make a run there. I think this program is getting consistently better as Courtney or as I'm blanking on our coach's name.
Oh, Colby Hale.
No,
that's soccer. Excuse me. Oh man, we're terrible. What are we doing? I could have told you if you hadn't asked me.
Right, but as
former
our coach,
Olympian. Yep.
Yeah, as she continues to build our program, you've got to think that it's going to keep getting better. She keeps getting, players that are not players, gymnasts that she wants into this program. It'll allow her to kind of build the roster that hopefully can succeed.
Jordan Weber.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry about that, y'all.
Former Olympian. But as she continues to build this program and take this Arkansas program to new records, as we see, setting new program records, that's fantastic. So get out there and watch our gymnastics this weekend as they're in the SEC tournament. And we'll jump over to Arkansas tennis really quick, where Arkansas women's tennis beat Missouri 4-0. Gotta love the continuous wins over Missouri. And then you have your men's tennis. They unfortunately fell to number 53, Ole Miss 4-3. And they beat Mississippi Valley State 4-0. And we'll jump over to some Arkansas softball. But before we do, don't forget to go check out Scarlet Letter, our new sponsor. They have a tap room here in Northwest Arkansas in Springdale that you can go get all their Scarlet Letters and their core brewing beer. But also go out there and get you some Scarlet Letter. They have all their different flavors going on right now, except for the kind of seasonal ones. You have your classic red, blue, purple, and green at the moment. So go check them out. You might find some pinks around, since it's still semi-close to those usually come out around Valentine's Day. Seth's got an example there. There you go. Announced that last Saturday. We got some big things partnering up with them. Just to give you a little hint, we're going to be doing a live show coming up soon from on location at Core Brewing. We'll give you more details as we kind of get those things figured out and scheduled. And we're going to have some pretty exciting special guests, if I say so myself. And like I said, we'll release those dates later, or those names and that date later as we get things figured out for us and with the Core Brewing Tap Room. But, keep a look out there. It's going to be exciting. Come if you can. If you're Northwest Arkansas, definitely get out there. It's going to be an away game for baseball. We don't want to try to compete and take people away from Baum. So it's going to be an away game. Come watch the game and then
get some
stick
good
around.
brews.
Yeah. And so go check them out. Proud to be sponsored with them. So go check them out. And we'll jump over to Arkansas softball, where they had a midweek game this week on their road trip back from Auburn, where they stopped and played Texas A&M Commerce and won this game 8-0 in 5 innings. So, a quick 5-inning game here, as you're headed back home for a series. Hannah Camden got the start in the circle in this game and also batted. So she did both. Pitching-wise, she came in, went 3 innings, allowed 2 hits, 1 walk, 4 strikeouts. Nikki McGaffin came in for an inning, allowed 1 hit, 1 walk. And then Casey Wood came in for 1 inning and 1 hit, a name that you haven't heard a ton this year, as, we've kind of had our kind of set that we've been using between Robin Hare and Hannah Camden, Morgan Leanstock. Those players have kind of been our traditional rotation that we wanted to see. So I'm not surprised to see Coach Deifel give somebody else a opportunity to come out and see. She is a freshman right-handed pitcher. So, with a midweek game where, the odds are pretty good for you to win, with this team having a very lopsided record with not many win totals there, it's a good opportunity to get them at least some experience and some innings under the belt. In this case, just 1 inning. But, you see that with Van Horn all the time during his midweek game. So I think that's standard practice there. But Arkansas scored its 8 runs on 13 hits in this game. Reagan Johnson went electric in this game, going 3 for 3, 2 runs scored, 1 stolen base. You got Hannah Camden, as we mentioned, got the start in the circle, but also hit in this game as well. She went 2 for 3 with 2 RBI singles. Rylan Hedgecock, 2 for 3, 2 RBIs. So, a fantastic game there. You got to love what this team is doing, and especially to see this in the midweek as they're coming back from a series win on the road, getting a quick little pit stop here and getting a win.
Yeah, you can't beat it, and they did exactly what was expected of them, and that's what you want to see in these types of scenarios: is come out, really dominate in the circle, and then do your job at the plate and get some timely hits, get some good strings of hits together. 13 hits across one game that was shortened to 5 innings, pretty big numbers. So overall, everybody came out and was seeing the ball big. Granted, you're playing somebody that you outmatch them talent-wise, so that's expected of you, and it's a good thing to come out and live up to those expectations. So great things happening, coming back from a good series victory against Auburn. So kind of keeping that momentum going, coming home, that's all you can ask for, man.
Yeah, that's true. And so, as we know, we jump over to Arkansas baseball. They got the win tonight. We're going to do a little bit of our preview show for the rest of the series, as this series did start on a Thursday. Quick numbers I want to hit real quick. If you go look, Seth and I was talking about this before the show. Hagen Smith has been incredible this season. And just to give you some stats after this game, as we sit today, Hagen Smith's season stats so far: a 1.24 ERA, 29 innings pitched, only 11 hits, 4 runs, and those being 4 earned runs, 10 walks, and 62 strikeouts. That's a 6-to-1 strikeout to walk ratio. Man is on fire so far this season, and he definitely showed, and we'll hit on it a little bit more in our recap, definitely showed some maturity and experience during this game, working around some difficult situations. But he's easily right now setting the tone for being the best pitcher in the country right now. And like some commentators mentioned last week, is really setting himself up to be one of the top arms off the board come draft time.
Yeah, and I think another thing, he was on the awards watch list at the beginning of the year, but Golden Spikes, I don't think that's out of the question at all with how he's looked so far. There's some other good players around the country that are going to get looks as well. But if he continues this, I mean, you're playing a top 25 Auburn team right now that's got some studs, and he, had I think 12 strikeouts tonight against them.
Yes.
Which is, and so that was the question early on is, okay, yeah, you've had some pretty good outings against some not so great teams, had the incredible outing against a very good Oregon State team. So that kind of, I thought, he had going his way, but the beginning of the year was such a fluke. It kind of, it made you wonder, is he going to be up and down, up and down, up and down, week in and week out? He is really, coming to his own and showed a level of consistency on the mound that I'm not sure I've ever even seen before. I mean, even surpassing like Kevin Kopps. I mean, because for him to come out and get 5-6 innings every game, breaking double-digit strikeouts almost every game, it's just it's crazy. So it's going to be wild to see later on in the year if he keeps this up. I feel bad for him almost in a way because the expectation for him to do that is going to be so high. It's even if he goes out and has a pretty good outing, only gets 5 strikeouts or something, and only makes it 4 or 5 innings, that's going to be a disappointment. And that's crazy to think about. So he's been absolutely stellar for the Razorbacks. And, you can't give him enough credit for the way he sets the tone in these series each week. And it definitely bleeds over into the rest of our starting pitching. I think he, really does a good job going out there and being aggressive against hitters, not being scared to throw strikes in the zone. And then he's got some absolute filth and gets guys to chase balls out of the zone. So very, very deadly combo there with what he's able to do with the ball in his hands. But great win tonight. Lower scoring than it should have been. We weren't able to hit the ball like we should have, and unfortunately stranded 5 or 6 runners on base. The biggest thing that stood out is we got caught stealing twice. That killed us. So a couple of things got to correct there this weekend. And I think that we learned the lesson to not run on Ike Irish, Auburn's catcher, who is All-American. So don't run on him. Be as careful as you can on the base paths out there these next couple of games. But definitely it's a testament to the pitching staff to win a game 1-0.
Yeah, very true. I mean, you gotta be smarter running the bases and stealing and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, the expectations for Hagan is almost double-digit strikeouts each game. To be fair, he hasn't had less than that very often. But there's probably going to be a game when you come against some tougher competition, say your Vandys, your Floridas, people like that, where he may still, in a sense, have a great game, but not hit those double-digit strikeouts. Now, maybe he will. But if he doesn't, I don't think it's the end of the world. No. But as we kind of look at this Auburn team, we got a taste of it tonight. But you start looking at some of the key players on, from the batting side of things. You saw Cooper McMurray. Up until late in the game, he was the only Auburn player to not strike out, but he did get struck out, later in the game. But on the season, and this isn't after tonight's game, but coming into this series, he has a 369 average in 19 games, 65 at-bats, 20 runs, 24 hits, 28 RBIs, 8 home runs, 15 walks, 17. He struck out 17 times. And he has a 9.972 fielding percentage. So he's a big bat for them. That he bats clean up in their order. So he's a guy that, has got the power that they kind of depend on there. Another guy, left fielder, Mason Manners, a 350 average through 19 games, 60 at-bats, 21 runs, 21 hits, 7 RBIs, 5 doubles, 12 walks, 15 strikeouts, and has a 966 fielding percentage. And then the other guy we want to talk about is shortstop Cooper Weiss, hitting 344 and through 18 games, 61 at-bats, 21 runs, 21 hits, 18 RBIs, 3 home runs, 15 walks, 15 strikeouts, and a 982 fielding percentage. So those are a few guys that we might want to pay attention to. And another guy, like Seth said, Ike Irish, their catcher, that's an All-American. He can have some skill behind the plate as well, not only catching but also with a bat. And then you look at their pitchers. We saw Connor McBride get the start tonight, I believe, and he's a guy that came in with a 2.41 ERA, 3-0 so far, 4 games, 18.2 innings pitched, 12 hits, earned runs, 4 walks, 15 strikeouts. He's a guy that had an interesting story. They were talking about how he, came out of high school, was playing baseball his junior year, didn't play his senior year, kind of did some volunteer stuff, some different things. He stepped away from the game, came back during COVID and stuff, and went to university to play ball. They didn't have baseball, transferred somewhere else, didn't get to play there, and then finally got the opportunity in junior college, and then transferred to Auburn. Here we are. But a guy that Arkansas was able to control Arkansas for a little bit, for the most part. Like we said, allowing only that one run, so that's a little bit. You got to think it is our batting. But also he is able to have some stuff that kind of shut our guys down compared to like Missouri last week where, we were just consistently hitting it out of the park. Yes, we were at home, but this is a good road test to see us get the win here in a fashion of a tough road test. Like Seth said, good job to our pitchers for winning us a 1-0 game between Hagan, Will, and Gabe Geckel that came in to close things out. Other guys you want to look at for Auburn is right-hander John Armstrong. He comes in with a 1.46 ERA, so he's kind of Hagan Smith-esque as far as his ERA. No wins, no losses on the season. 7 games this season he's made appearances. 12 and third innings pitched, 6 hits, 2 earned runs, 5 walks, 14 strikeouts. So, the ERA is low, not as a big number of strikeouts and whatnot as Hagan. You want to look at left-hander Tanner Baumman. He comes in with a 3.97 ERA, 2 wins, 1 loss in 8 games, 11 and third innings pitched, 9 hits, 5 earned runs, 5 walks, 16 strikeouts. And kind of the last guy there, Christian Herb Holtz, a 5.84 ERA coming in with 0-1 in 5 games. 12 and 1/3 innings pitched, 15 hits, 3 walks, 17 strikeouts. So, guys that has some stuff, but, I don't think it's anything. If Arkansas can get their bats going, that's going to be key here. Like Seth mentioned earlier, we can't afford to strand runners. We had several guys in scoring positions several times, whether it be second and third. We had guys at first and third. We can't be getting caught stealing and get thrown out. That's going to be we're going to be tested in that sense because once you start seeing some tougher competition, you're not going to be able to just essentially home run your way out of every game.
Yeah, that's very true. And I think it'll happen. I do think tonight was a little goofy. We had some good hits. Hudson White especially played well tonight, hitting the ball well. Decent base hits. Got a couple lucky bloopers that dropped, but just not enough altogether outside of the home run by Vahiva Aloy to really get anything across the plate. We ran ourselves out of a couple of opportunities, with I think it was 2 different strike them out, throw them out scenarios, which is unfortunate, but got to clean that up. But overall, I think we do match up well against Auburn. They've got some good players. We've got some better players, in my opinion. Definitely think we've got the better pitching staff, and I think that bodes well for us to maybe pull this out. But tonight was a little scary. I'm not going to lie. There was a couple scary moments in tonight's game. And if Auburn had been able to squeak a couple of runs off earlier, and I think it was the 6th inning where they really showed some stresses on Hagan, this game definitely could have ended different because we didn't hit well enough to really come back if they had gotten the lead. So got to get that corrected, learn from this and bounce back over the next couple of days. Hopefully the rain holds off over there.
Yeah, that's true. And so as you look at it, you're going to have Brady Tiger for Arkansas starting tomorrow. His stats aren't as crazy as far as the number of strikeouts as Hagan's, but if you look at him, he's 3-0 on the season. He has a .73 ERA. So the lowest ERA of our 3 starting pitchers, through 5 games. He's pitched 24 2/3, has 12 hits, a few more hits than Hagan, has allowed 2 earned runs, 11 walks, so walks a few more guys, 35 strikeouts. So he's not quite as many strikeouts as Hagan, but he's still able to come out and get those flyouts, those pop outs, those ground outs, whatever. And that ERA shows that. And then, of course, Saturday, we're sticking with the normal rotation of Mason Molina, who comes in 3-0 with a 2.74 ERA through 5 games, 23 innings pitched, 9 hits, 7 earned runs, 11 walks, and 43 strikeouts. So you'd like to, hopefully he gets better at control with walking guys. But other than that, at this moment, I have all the confidence in the world in this pitching staff. You saw it tonight. We only scored 1 run, but the way our pitching staff was built, we were able to still come out with a win. And that's big to get that opening win of the series. Now, you just got to win one more to win the series. Love to see another sweep on the road. I know Arkansas's not going to go perfect on the in conference play this season. I would love to see that. But, as long as you can clinch those series win, I think that's really what you're going to want to rely on and see this Arkansas team do.
Yeah, and I think we're built to really do that. We're a hard team to beat 2 out of 3 on with the starting pitching that we have. I mean, in my opinion, this may be too early to say this, but we do have 3 legit aces, I feel like, and that is nuts. Most teams have 1, maybe 2 at most, and I legit feel like our 3 starters could be aces on any other team. Obviously, Hagan, but I mean, Brady is basically an ace on any other team. The ERA is ridiculous, and then Molina is out there just hammering guys. Strikeout after strikeout after strikeout. Obviously, it's not quite Hagan's level, but it's dang close. He's hit double-digit strikeouts multiple times himself. He's done a great job showing maturity, working himself out of some situations also where he's, kind of like you said, struggled with a few walks and things. Gets that cleaned up. I mean, realistically, he's an ace. On any other team, he is. He was Texas Tech's ace last year. So that is a true recipe to really win most series, if you will, because you've got a really, really strong pitching staff and some great relievers behind those starters. And, might not happen like tonight. For example, we didn't hit the ball well, but there's a strong opportunity. We come back out, see the ball a little bit differently tomorrow, and score 9 runs or something crazy. So I'm looking to see us kind of bounce back on the bat side of things. I think they know that they had some struggles tonight, especially on the base pads. Got to get those fixed, come back out and kind of bounce back and get a better win tomorrow if possible.
Yeah, very true. And so as we flip over to softball, Arkansas has a top 20 matchup this weekend as they have Mississippi State coming to town. This is a team that, SEC softball, if you will, is always super competitive. You have a lot of the teams that are all in the same realm of competition. Mississippi State comes in at number 20. We're, I believe, like number 13 or 17, around that. So it's a top 20 matchup, and that's going to be big as Arkansas will get things back rolling at Bogle tomorrow at 6 o'clock. So if you're in town, go check out the softball game. I know March Madness is going on right now. But if you want to see some Arkansas sports, softball's in town this weekend, so go check them out. But this will be another good matchup. Hopefully we see another series win by Arkansas. It's one of those things where, as we mentioned for last week, you see we went down to Auburn, didn't get the sweep, but was able to go down and get the win there. So what do you kind of want to see out of this team as they're coming back to Bogle and have a top 20 matchup?
Well, I just think the consistency piece is the biggest thing you want to see. You don't want to see any drop off, if you will, coming back and playing another really talented team, top 20 matchup, like you said. So just coming back out, having 3 consistent games where you pitch well, we know we can do it, and you hit the ball at least well enough. I thought we've done a really good job so far this year of if one person is struggling one game, you have somebody else that's really stepping up. You have a couple of key pieces that seem like they've been stepping up all season, with Kennedy Miller coming to mind, Bree Ellis coming to mind, hitting insane averages right now. So there's a couple of players on there that you can really kind of lean on. And then you've got some other players sprinkled in and around there that have serious power. And I think coming back home to Bogle, everybody's going to be comfortable, get to sleep in their own beds. I think it bodes well for Arkansas to come out and have a really good weekend. And with baseball being on the road, I think we're going to see some potential record-breaking crowds, if you will, with it being a top 20 matchup this early in the year. Weather's supposed to be fairly nice. I think it bodes well for the Hogs to have a pretty good weekend in a lot of different facets. But the consistency piece is the one thing that I want to see the most of, that they're able to compete day in, day out at a high level.
Yeah, so true. So you look at it, some awards we kind of want to name real quick. Bree Ellis, after that fantastic performance against her old team, was named Week 6 SEC Softball Player of the Week, so her second in a row. And then you also had freshman Kennedy Miller named Freshman Player of the Week after that phenomenal performance as well. So, you got to see softball doubling up on the awards. You got to love that. And then you look at Mississippi State coming to town. They started out the season with 8 consecutive wins, 4 straight against opponents that were ranked in the top 25 poll. Their pitcher, Aspen Wesley, was named to the NCAA Softball Pitcher of the Week and SEC Co-Pitcher of the Week for her complete game performances against, at the time, number 23 Louisiana and number 5 Clemson. She pitched 13 innings in those 2 games and only allowed 1 run while striking out 12 batters. And, she's not the only Bulldog pitcher that has that ability. She comes in with 3-0 with a 0.41 ERA. There's also Josie Marin that comes in with an 8.86 ERA, and Matalasi Papito with a 0.6 ERA. So, they've got some really good pitchers here that's going to really test this Arkansas batting. We know what they can do. Bree Ellis, Reagan Johnson, Hannah Gamble, Ryland Hedgecock, all those big bats. They're really put to the test here as we see a really tough Mississippi State pitching staff coming to town.
Yeah, and that's kind of my point. If you can have any type of level of consistency that you've shown early on against this type of hitting, I think that's what really solidifies you as that top 10, top 15 team in the country. You have to have that. If when the competition gets tough, you fall apart and are not able to score any runs at all or very few, that shows where your deficiencies are, and that's the one thing that I don't want to see. I think it's fairly critical that we at least have a couple of players with decent at bat totals and stuff. You've got to have that to win games. We all know that. I mean, it's just basic math and everything, but you really want to see how we fare against this kind of really tough, true, really first big time test against some big arms like this. I'd really get a good feel on where you are against the upper echelons in the country.
Yeah, that's so true. So a lot of exciting things coming up this weekend. As we wrap up here, we'll hit our upcoming events. As we mentioned, basketball went to Tulsa today, and unfortunately got the loss in the WNIT, so they're done for the season. Arkansas swimming and diving will be in the NCAA championships today and tomorrow. Arkansas baseball started their series against Auburn tonight. That'll run through Saturday. Men's tennis will be going up against number 28 Alabama. Women's tennis taking on number 12 Florida. We just got through previewing. Arkansas softball has Mississippi State coming to town tomorrow through Sunday. And then Arkansas gymnastics will be at the SEC tournament in New Orleans this weekend, where they will be in a group meet setting with number 13 Missouri, number 14 Auburn, and number 18 Georgia. So hopefully they can find some of the success that they had, in that last match against Nebraska, build on that. And like Seth said, hopefully we can maybe end up with some hardware to bring home for Coach Weber. And so, the drill. Please hit that like and subscribe button on YouTube, Apple Podcast, Spotify. That really helps us. As we're growing, big things coming. We want to be able to, bring you the best that we can. And as we continue to do it, hit that like and subscribe button. And thank you for listening to today's episode of Woo Pig Weekly. And we'll be right back here next week and for our recap show on Monday.